So wherever you are, whether you're in a major city or you're in the middle of nowhere, this is a very important time to get prepared. And I have a lot of expertise and unique feedback on the subject, but I'm not an expert on preparedness items. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that I have a goal to help my audience get prepared. But because I know a lot about the survival business, and it is a business where a lot of people will rip you off if they see you as a mark, if they see you as someone that is inclined to panic buying, know what I mean? I've worked with some of these individuals, and a lot of them don't care about you. And a lot of them aren't really telling the truth about what's coming down the line. They're still into political worship of somebody on the right or somebody in the alternative media. And they don't seem to understand that our own government on both sides has sold us down the river. Many of these people that people trust have businesses in China, whether it be Donald Trump with some of his dealings, Elon Musk or others. And so I want to attract people to my work that are free of the left-right paradigm, that are not thinking that somebody's going to be saving their ass. I stood up for off-gridders when white off-gridders being kicked off their land by a racist county in Costilla County, Colorado. Okay? Did people in the alternative media come to my aid or other preppers? Very, very few. And so when we talk about preparing, the first thing that I'm going to say is we need to be conscious. We need to be conscious preppers, right? Not in the left-right paradigm. We need to understand that these individuals that are acting like they're going to save us from what's coming are not to be trusted. So let's talk about prepping, okay? I have a goal to share with my audience the top prepper items that they need to get for the best price for under $1,000, because a lot of you, like myself, are living in absolute poverty, do not have health insurance, do not have savings, and some of you, like me, do not have a retirement. And so we could be looking at the destruction of our economic system at any point in time. So what few $1,000s we have on us, for example, we don't know if it's going to be worth anything in a few years, do we? There's no guarantee. So I can tell you right now a few things off the top of my head that I think that people should have if they have the space. There's an issue, though, that some people are facing. Some people are facing situations in which their spouse or their family or their parents are anti-prepping, because of the whole stereotyping of the doomsday preppers, which is a longer conversation. They have stereotyped preppers as extremists in many cases. And there are certain preppers out there that are not healthy in the head. And so I don't hang out in prepper groups. There isn't any real intellectual diversity in these prepper groups. And so I'm only going to get so much information from these folks. And not everybody has the ability to live in an ideal off-grid neighborhood where they are welcome to be a part of the community. Where I was in Colorado, I was not welcome. And the people that ran the prepper groups would glamorize drone attacks over innocent men, women, and children. And they dare to call themselves patriots, proponents of freedom. So there's a lot of people in the prepper world that are brainwashed by modern day politics that are not free of the left-right paradigm. And so they're not truly prepping, right? They're not truly free in their heart. And you want to prepare spiritually for what's coming. You want to work on getting rid of your demons if you have any. So as I said yesterday in a recent video, people on medications need to prep for what's coming. If you're dependent on those medications, and thank God I'm not in that trap, but a lot of you are, a lot of humans are, right? And not everybody can afford cannabis. Cannabis is not legal in every state in the US because it's still illegal at the federal level, which is why those that voted for Trump that consume cannabis are hypocrites, because Republicans in the United States of America are anti-pot. And don't you forget it. They're anti-pot, and they compare people that consume cannabis to straight up hardened criminals that should be thrown away. We should be above that stuff. We should have evolved beyond that paradigm, but we haven't. And so it's not fair in America for it to be legal in some areas and other areas for it to be illegal, and for people to be still put in jail, or for you to have to go through a gangster or a hoodie or a hood rat in order to get your questionable dope, right? Where's that at? And so if people aren't going to be getting off their medications, they need to be preparing with extra medications. But the fact of the matter is, most people are not prepared for what's coming. Russia has been attacking through cyber attacks, ransomware attacks, several cities in America. This is still ongoing. And as you can see on my YouTube channel, the one that you're watching right now, I warned of increased cyber attacks as far back as 2008. And I said, don't rely on the internet. So when it comes to prepping, I do have several 150 watt solar panels, but at present, no batteries, no inverter, no charge controller. So I don't know if I'm going to be lining that up in the near future, but I do know that I need food beyond just the quinoa that I need. So I'm considering some freeze-dried food. I'm considering some other non-perishables. There's a lot of recommendations for, I believe it's Augusto Farms. They have the powdered scrambled eggs. There's also the powdered milk. We want to be thinking about nutrition. And so not just the typical storable foods, but things like spirulina. If you're not going to get your vegetables, things like vitamins, minerals, supplements, you'll have to do your own research on that. I'm still doing my research on that. So I recently obtained some liquid iodine, some oil of oregano. I'm also taking some magnesium. Grab and go is a different situation, right? If you live in an area where there are rural areas that you can bug out to, and you have friends in some of those areas, that's fantastic. I do not have off-grid allies at present, and I never really had off-grid allies. I've always had an audience and people watching my content, but never really had the real world, in the flesh, friends and allies to back me up. Everything's just been digitally based. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we're on our last legs. That's why I returned to the internet, to give you the information that I have. Not to debate with you, not to go back and forth, not to make a bunch of friends. I'm not here for fake friends. Real friends that may have been watching me for years, those are the ones that I would like to see emerge from the ashes, right? That have had my back for years. Very few do, right? But I still would like to know people in the real world if they're not already taken over by partisan politics, if they're not already taken over by these entities. But I can't have anything to do with most of society. I go into the grocery store, I avoid eye contact, but I use peripheral vision. I'm aware of the energy fields of others. I'm aware of when I'm dealing with people with demonic attachments, right? And I'm aware of when I'm around angelic people. And so conscious prepping has a lot to do with serving God, standing against all forms of hate, for example, standing against injustice, and giving voice to those individuals that have been oppressed. Right? It's not conscious to prep and still be a selfish SOB, right? It's just totally unconscious. Or to get on Facebook and glamorize the murder of innocent men, women, and children while supposedly having your own defense militia, right? Some of these folks in America plan to take over the roads and take over local water supplies when the shit hits the fan. Some of these folks in America have already done their own drills, have already done their own war games where they stop people coming in from other states. And so I've been trying to warn people for years, for those people that are going to be in a situation where they're fleeing the West Coast or they're fleeing the East Coast, in some of these mountain range areas in middle America, they know that people are going to be coming and they plan to stop them in their tracks. They've said this. So I hope many of us will not be dealing with mutual assured destruction or nuclear warfare, because the fact of the matter is many of us in certain districts in the US live in certain areas where there is limited access to nature and getting away from the blast zones. Take a look at the target zones, for example, when it comes to the potential event of World War III. Look at Russia's targets. Look at the American cities that Russia has targeted and ask yourself, does it make sense for so many people in the conspiracy movement to have defended Vladimir Putin and seen him as someone that's pushing back against the New World Order? You need to stop listening to people that have lied to you for 10, 15, 20 years. And you need to start to see things as they are. Because a lot of these folks, the top dogs in the conspiracy movement, they're not really helping the people prepare. They're not giving them quality lists. They don't care about people on a poor budget that can only spend $1,000 on prepper gear, right? They want people to buy the high ticket items. I understand, we gotta eat, we gotta involve ourselves in making a living, but I don't make a living selling people marked up products. But here's my history. I did work with a few folks that did. I helped a few folks open up a survival store in Portland, Oregon called the Portland Preparedness Center. I literally lived in the back. And I thought these were my friends. And I was told by Richard that it would be my store. And in fact, it was not going to be my store. It was going to be the store of somebody who's connected with the cult leader by the name of Jay-Z Knight, i.e. Ramtha, out of Yelm, Washington. If you don't know who Ramtha is, maybe you should do some homework. But there are fake New Age teachers and misleaders that are led by aliens that have been telling people to prep for years, but they've given many false predictions. And they've told their flock that the ascended masters that they're channeling have endorsed Trump and Putin and basically the military industrial complex while demonizing people from the third world. And you would think that people would wake up to this. And so many mainstream preppers are listening to the wrong folks. There should be people of various cultures, ethnicities, and religions having conversations about prepping. That's what I want to see from my audience. I want to see a more diverse audience become attracted to my work, because my attempts to reach people of certain religions and certain backgrounds, right, have failed. AI is stopping me every step of the way. AI and the entity that controls AI doesn't want me helping these people. And I had a nightmare last night that I upset a demon and he was retaliating against me. And see, not all these dreams are omens. Some of them are psychic attacks after videos we put out there that help people wake up. As I told you in last night's video, I'm attacked sometimes by the demons that are attached to some of my viewers. And so these people that are watching my content, they're not thinking about what I go through as a content creator. They're only thinking about themselves and their own opinions. They take me for granted, and that's a big, big mistake. That's why I took off for 3 more years. Maybe I'll take off again, but I am not somebody to be bullied, and I am not someone to take for granted. I'm not here to be everybody's friend. I am here to be an information machine, because since I quit cannabis, and since I quit alcohol, and since I quit tobacco, and since I quit consuming unhealthy content, and since I quit watching movies, and since I quit hanging out with fake ass friends, and since I quit social media, although I've been briefly posting some things on Facebook, my life has changed, especially when I started praying directly to Jesus Christ and repenting of my sins. That doesn't mean I'm Orthodox, right? Orthodox folks are not drawn to my work. Some are, most are not, because I dabble in other spiritual teachings because it's literally in my DNA. And so it's within my DNA that has also been discussing the things that are to come from an accurate perspective, not a fake news perspective. So I know in my heart, in my gut, that America is likely to become attacked in the near future if things go in a certain direction by either China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. And that a lot of this stuff happening with Hamas and Israel, maybe they're deliberately staged to lead into other situations. The fact of the matter is, despite the fact that Russia has attacked certain cities in America, including, I believe Oregon's been under attack. I believe there are other places on the East Coast that have been attacked by Russia. And then, of course, we have the Chinese attacks in which they have been harvesting Microsoft emails. Not only spying on people through TikTok, and I would say that the clock is ticking, tick-tock, until we face these conflicts, until the day that these things happen. But I think that's naive for people to say to me that my speculation about these things is contributing to these events possibly happening. Just because some people don't want these things to happen, and I don't want these things to happen, doesn't mean that we should bully or put down those people that have the ability to see. A lot of the people in the alternative media are going to get you into a nationalistic us versus them, us versus China mentality, right? Remember Trump saying China flu, China, 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 right? A lot of that amplified xenophobia towards Chinese Americans, which they did not deserve. And there was an increase in assaults on Asian Americans, including from the black community, as there are many in the black community that are influenced by far-right ideology, as they are brainwashed by social media and told that these other Americans over here, they're less than you. They're taking from you. These other immigrants, these other minorities, they're bad people. They're taking from you. They're harming you, right? That's not the full truth. There's many people that are good people from around the world that are in this country, but you're never going to hear that from Jeff Rentz, right? But Jeff Rentz will come to the aid of the Palestinians, but call the other human beings from around the world subhumans because of the crimes of a few. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that we should call white people subhumans because of white supremacy? No, we need to expose white supremacy and the demons that hold those strings and not blame all white people for white supremacy. Most of you agree with that. Now, how do we take that understanding and apply it to other people? Because if you think you're prepping for what's to come, but you're not cleaning out your mind from the gunk that's been injected into your mind, right? Many people refused to take the you-know-what during the recent health event, but did they reject the propaganda from the algorithm? We both know the answer to that. It's a big hell no. I've talked with Steve Shank from eFoods Direct in 2007, wanting to get him to sponsor my Patriot radio shows that I did back in the day, which some of you may have listened to when I was on the air in RBN in 2006 and went on to American Freedom Radio and WTPRN, and all those alternative media folks deleted all my content, right? Because I'm not on board the you-know-what train. And they don't understand that I'm a true independent mind. And in my opinion, America needs more men like me that are not co-opted and sold out by the system and big tech and big money. Because it's like that story of Jesus in the wilderness being tempted by Satan, as Satan says, worship me and I will give you all these things. I've chosen to not serve Satan. I've chosen to expose Satan. And so I have been punished in this physical world. I don't have real world allies in this world. I don't even have a loving mother and father that give a damn about me. But even despite the abuse of my father, I still told him months ago, be prepared with food and water, and tell your flock, tell your family that you won't let me talk to in your social media groups, and get prepared. They'll listen to so-called progressives. They'll listen to themselves. They'll listen to other people in their own inner circle, but they won't listen to their own flesh and blood, Alex Ansary. You see, so a lot of you out there, you don't know how much I've struggled, and you don't know how many times I've prepped, and I've had to walk away from my preps, and I've left stuff in storage at former friends' houses that were not really good friends, that were fake friends, and they never ever messaged me to say, hey, Alex, do you want your photo album of your grandparents? I have no photo album of my children, of me as a child. Correction. I have no photo album of my family relatives. And my mother and father got rid of their pictures of me. You know, there's a lot of people out there that have killed themselves in recent years. There's no point in prepping with stuff if you're going to blow your brains out. I knew a guy who was a prepper in Portland, Oregon, who turned on me when someone robbed his ass because he left his car unlocked, and because I was the last person to hang out with him, and because he was a psychopath and I didn't want to hang out with him anymore. He assumed, right, that I was crazy enough to jack him of his power tools simply because of my background. And then he started making videos about me, talking about the children of the immigrants and their criminal behavior in the United States. What a stab in the heart. So, like, if you're in my shoes, you just do not hang out with the average folks that contact you or want to get involved in prepping, or that people that want to come over to your off-grid residency, because everybody that came to my off-grid residency was a creep when I lived in Southwest Colorado. One guy came over to help me when my car was broken down. We had a few beers. The guy sits down and says, we need to pray for Adolf Hitler. And I'm just like, what? We need to pray for Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler deserves our love too. And I'm just like, instead of argue with them, I just let him blab and blab and blab. And I just didn't say anything. Just, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, Adolf Hitler, what a great guy. Yeah, And then he just took off and we never talked again. He was expecting my ass to agree with him. Right? Beware of having beers off grid in Colorado over a fire with people that have unclean spirits attached to them. Not a good idea. Also not a good idea to smoke a bunch of marijuana and pass that pipe around the fire when you don't know the true spiritual nature of those individuals that you're sharing energy with as you pass the pipe. And some people are obsessed with it. Like, here, bro, smoke this. Marijuana is great. It should be legal everywhere. But people shouldn't be abusing it. So we're talking about prepping, and all this stuff relates to prepping, even though you might not recognize it. But I'm trying to help you see. A lot of the people that are in leadership positions, not just politics, but the people that run these Facebook groups, a lot of these folks, including foreigners that run these Facebook groups in foreign languages, they're control freaks too. So when I talk about control freaks in America right now, I'm talking about people around the world that like to control people, where they're like, it's my way or the highway. We have to approve your post in our prepper group before we even let you speak to our people. How then is there a respect for freedom of speech? So if you don't have people respecting each other, if you don't have people loving each other, what's the point in prepping? And if some people are going to blow their head off because they're crazy and they're bipolar, what's the point in obsessing with prepping and having a survival retreat if you can't even psychologically survive the evil of this world that wants us to kill ourselves? Never forget that. These entities that are beaming voices into people's heads, right, that use the technology that may be active. The Havana syndrome, the directed energy weapons. These entities ride that storm. They ride that lightning like the Metallica song says. And so keep this in mind. When the grid goes down, we will still be dealing with entity attachments because they're in nature, but it's going to be less. It's going to be significantly less when the power grid goes down and the directed energy weapons go down and the other technologies go down. The entity manipulation of mankind will be significantly less, but there still will be earthbound spirits that we will have to contend with. And there will be rape, there will be cannibalization, there will be human trafficking of women, there will be rapes in the street, folks, in a lot of American cities and regions. Because there's been so much brainwashing out there that a lot of people aren't prepping to protect each other. They're just, I'm going to protect with my guns, and it's about me and my wife, and it's just like, oh, there we go, there we go. It's the independent family model versus the world, instead of us actually coming together. You see how much they've been pushing for the Civil War on the left and on the right? You don't have to participate in the incoming Civil War if you don't have to. I'm here to tell you, right, as a messenger of God, like there are many right now, that you don't have to participate in the manufactured civil unrest scenario. You can choose to be a conscious human being. You can choose to raise your frequency. You can choose to sit under the sun and raise your soul voltage as you do Qigong. You bring in that energy, and then again, bring in that soul voltage energy, raise your frequency, bring in that Godhead energy and expel your demons and demand in the name of Jesus Christ that they get out of your body and stop taking pollutants that are harming you, that are breaking down your DNA, that are weakening your aura. Stop smoking cigarettes, stop consuming the aspartame, stop consuming what GMO you can, eat healthy, nutritious food. That's part of prepping. Work out, okay? Eat vegetables, eat grass-fed meat. Right? Eat healthy non-GMO potatoes, right? Just because they're not all organic doesn't mean that all potatoes that don't have organic certified are bad. Some health food stores do have non-GMO potatoes. Okay? Let me know what your recommendations are for the most important things that a human being needs to prep with. Because I want to share this with my audience in a future video. I'm going to create a list of the top items to get for $1,000. Maybe we can extend it to $1,500, but the vast majority of the people that watch my content are low income. They're not high income. And by the way, when I was a kid, I thought that it was rich people that gave people money. And when you become older, you realize, especially if you're a content creator and you receive donations, actually, it's people that are on disability, SSI, people that are low poverty, people that work crappy jobs. Those are the people that donate to my work. It's rarely people that are actually wealthy, because people that are wealthy and people that have a lot of money, right? A lot of them are in a mentality that the poor are worthless. That people that are poor, that didn't have maybe the privilege that they had, right? That they deserve to suffer. There was one time where someone was a heir to some sort of a fortune, and she donated $5,000 to me to get out of homelessness in Portland, Oregon in 2014. So I got an RV and I got a few grand and I put it in silver. And then when the time was right, I sold the silver so I wouldn't spend the money. And I put it as a down payment on a plot of land in Southwest Colorado. But because the people there were so unstable, insane in the membrane, and I had haters online that targeted me, I knew that I was meant to leave that region. So just because I'm not in the mountain range, right, where I'd like to be, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to survive the things that are to come. Because you know what? Some areas that people think are really pristine to be ideal for the incoming Chinese, Russian invasion or whatever's going to be taking place. And if you want more info on that, go to my Substack page and watch my Fourth Horse Rising documentary. But this isn't about Trump, and this isn't about necessarily Biden. But either of those individuals can set the stage for a greater conflict that may even come in the mid-2030s during the peak of the next solar cycle. But mark my words, whatever is coming is going to occur in and around the solar peak. Don't listen to these folks that are telling you that the sun is dying. Don't listen to these folks that are telling you that we're in an ice age, right? Like, I'm not putting forth the official view of global warming, but in certain places in America, it is hot, hot, hot. There is no ice age. So some people need to wake up and realize, right, that some of the stuff that is trending on the algorithm is straight up disinformation to confuse people. And I know this for a fact in my heart. right? So disinformation about the sun, get rid of it. Disinformation about the shape of the earth, get rid of it, right? If you're into that stuff, do not force your ideology onto others unless you have a deep, profound spiritual understanding about how to escape this simulation. Okay, get away from the people promoting racism. I'm not full on open borders, and I think there's a lot of bad immigrants, but demonizing all immigrants and all non-white humans is not a healthy thing to do, because there are many white people that are highly respected in the alternative media that engage in clickbait and lie to their audience. There are some names that I can drop, but I'm not going to do that. You should already know by now in 2023 how many times you were lied to by certain folks in the alternative media. And that in some cases, 80 to 90% of what they say is false. If you go over to beforeitsnews.com, which I did the other day, nearly everything on that website was inherently false and a lie. And so go to the Drudge Report, go to news.google.com, go to yahoo.com. If you're on Windows, look at the recommended information that comes up in the Windows Start app. Go to other websites other than conspiracy theory websites and hear what regular people have to say about reality. Really, you will benefit from it. They may not understand the conspiracy and the New World Order like you do and like I do, but the fact of the matter is, because they haven't been brainwashed by Alex Jones and other folks out there, they may have unique insights that you and I are not picking up on, right? It's like a guy that tried to teach me how to fight back in the day. He only tried half-assed. And in reality, I trained myself to learn how to deflect blows and do certain things. But he said that fighting is a thinking man's game. He also said you can be a big bodybuilder, but they necessarily can't fight except maybe grab you and throw you against a wall. And so prepping is a thinking man's game. We're not just talking about the stuff you need. We're talking about preparing your mind, your body, and your soul and or your spirit. And so meditation is important. Having a spiritual practice is important. But again, this term that I want to introduce to you, Prepper PTSD, it is a term to describe prepping multiple times and having to leave your stuff behind. Back in 2011, when I left Estacada, Oregon, I left 8 full 5-gallon containers. They look like paint containers, but they're food safe, filled with food with a Gamma Seal lid. Since that time, the food has doubled, and the Gamma Seal lids are like 20 bucks each. When I bought them, they were $7. I had colloidal silver, I had supplements, I had a number of things. I had camping gear, I had a tent, all that in the past. Fast forward to Costilla County, right? 2013, I had a bunch of stuff that I had with my yurt that I was staying in, that I was given permission to stay in. Right there in Costilla County near San Luis, Colorado, right? Also a great place to live off the grid if you have the money to buy a septic system. Because if you don't have 10 grand for a septic system, that corrupt county will kick your ass off your own land. And I stood up for those off-gridders, and very few people appreciated what I did for them because they were brainwashed by the internet itself, and people like me. They profiled me. Even the people in San Luis profiled me. Why you want to live without a toilet? Like some of these barbaric countries, you know? Why you want to live without a toilet? Listen, there's plenty of people that have been living off grid for years in America with a compost toilet system. What about our founding fathers like mine and our ancestors that took the Oregon Trail to the Pacific Northwest, and they came with nothing more than their preps and a wagon? Nobody called them crazy. It was encouraged to go and settle the new world. Did they have a compost system? Did they have a septic system, rather? Did they have building permits? No, they didn't have building permits. And what is up with all these progressive out there that are believing the official view of climate change? They don't realize that if you want to lower your carbon footprint, you don't want to be getting on the freeway every day and driving and spending a bunch of money on gas. You want to be critical of the gas companies? How about living a way of life that doesn't require massive driving? What about living off the grid somewhere in a community where people are free of the left-right paradigm, where they have mutual respect for each other, to where you have your own system? But the reality is there are not conscious off-grid communities full of many members in America. Do you know why that is? It's not government interference. It's the individuals themselves that have attitude problems. Mark my words and remember my predictions. When these things come to fruition, when the shit hits the fan, You're going to see the rise of many cult leaders in America that will say, come join my cult if you want to eat. Come join my cult if you want to live. They're already out there. I can give you a few names that are already engaged in cult-like activity. Believe everything that I say about the sun. Believe everything that I say about this, or be cast out and insulted and maybe even stalked. Because if you have a different view of the sun, if you have a different view of what's coming down the line, some of these individuals will think that you are their friggin' enemy. And that is not a sign of a godly man. That is a sign of an individual that has been taken over by the spirit of evil. And so the importance of the internet right now and using it mindfully is to connect with like minds that are already prepping and already engaged in trying to get off grid. And then, of course, for those of us that have experienced city life, there should be a much greater emphasis on the community garden. But if you don't have people that are getting along, if you have so much racial strife because of Black Lives Matter, and on the right you have the other things that are coming at us, as you see on Twitter, thanks to Elon Musk, who is not our friend, who is China's friend, and don't you forget it. And don't think you can sit around on Twitter, right, and not be watched by the communist Chinese, because there's a reason that Elon Musk has business in China. And I got off Twitter earlier this year when they were messing with one of my dummy accounts that I set up, manipulating the amount of tweets that I had, manipulating this. They literally unsubscribed people from my channel. They literally unfriended on Facebook several hundred people or 1,000 people, and they unliked Facebook, removed 200 likes from my Outside the Box TV with Alex Ansary page. You see, folks, that's interference. And a lot of the folks that some of you see online that are reckoning by the algorithm, no one's fucking with them. Not China, not Russia, because they don't expose what these foreign governments are going to be doing. They have a pass. They have a disinfo pass. And their own audiences that are stuck in tribalism, right? You know what I mean, tribalism. Because they're stuck in tribalism, they don't care when they're being lied to. They like it. It's like Britney Spears. Hit me, baby, one more time. So going back to my story, I've prepped multiple times, and I've had to move multiple times. When I left Portland and I went to another state in 2011, 2012, I left with nothing more than a backpack, left my stuff in storage. When I lived off-grid in Coast County and it was time to leave off-grid and go back to Portland, I left with a backpack and went to visit someone in Kansas City, Missouri. Took the Greyhound, was basically homeless. Came back to Portland, Oregon, lived in my truck for a year. A year! Nobody helped me in Portland, Oregon. Nobody cared. Then I left in an RV, as I told you, ended up in Southwest Colorado, and I prepped there. Solar, battery, charge controller, inverter, food storage, but not a great deal, just a little. And water containers, one of the most important things you can prep. And you can get a 55-gallon water container from Walmart. And I'm saying for those of you that have spouses and people in your life that are saying, we don't have the space for this, right? It is unfortunate. And we need to work to wake up those people in our community or those people in our immediate lives that don't see the importance of having water containers because they've never gone without water. They've never had to starve. I have been stuck off the grid when my car didn't work and I couldn't go anywhere. I know what it's like to be off grid and not have resources. And I know what it's like to survive for months on end in my own trial run, whereas most humans have never, ever done that. But you can do a trial run. You can flip off the power in your house for 1 week and see if you and your family has what it takes to survive. I want you to let me know down in the comments what you think are the most important things to prep in the event of some of these disastrous scenarios. So leave your comments down below. I don't have time to get into all the variety of things that I have, but life straw, we have some candles here. I have some iodine in case of a blast. I have a poncho. I have some water tablets. I have some water containers. I have a butane stove. I have a propane stove, but no propane yet. I have some quinoa, and I'm about to start building the rest. And so these are times in which people need to prep on a budget. And I'm looking for the proper advice from others that have the same psychology that I have, that the vast majority of the stuff that you see sold by most preppers is overpriced, and we need to think outside the box when it comes to preparing getting the right necessities, the toilet paper, the paper towels, the water containers, the food, the candles, the matches, even the outside barbecue grills, because there's going to be a lot of people without power that are going to be cooking outside. And hopefully, if they prep correctly and they have conscious people in their community, they will only be eating healthy, nutritious food, and they will not be eating human beings. So this is just a precursor to future prepper videos that I will be creating, where I'll be sharing a longer list, right, of the most recommended items to get for $1,000, right? Talk to you next time.